Our wife, welcome.
Sit down, my daughter. Thanks for being a supporting wife to my son.
Thank you, Mama. Don't mention, I'm only doing what is expected of me.
That's why I love you. My wife, just like you know, your brother-in-law is gone. His name cannot die with him. So Daniel must marry Bisi.
Sorry?
Yes, Bisi, Emeka's wife. She needs a child to carry on the family name. Daniel will give her that.
Mama, this is 2026. Your tradition does not check the calendar. Nobody does such in this century.
Well, Florence, I have spoken.
I am sorry, Mama. I am sitting right here in this house telling you I will not accept this.
Then you will leave. This is my son's house.
Mama, I go nowhere. It is you and your nonsense tradition that will leave my house.
She built everything he had. Then he let another woman move into her bed. Florence knew her husband's voice the way you know a song you've heard 1,000 times. Every pause, every breath, every lie hiding just underneath the melody. That's how she knew, the moment Daniel sighed, that she had already lost him. But let's go back. 7 years. That's how long Florence had been married to Daniel Adeyemi. 7 years of early mornings and late nights. 7 years of choosing him quietly, consistently, without applause or acknowledgement. They had a son, Tunde, 5 years old, gap-toothed and loud, and the most beautiful thing Florence had ever created. They had a 3-bedroom home in a calm, tree-lined part of Lagos. They had what she genuinely believed was a life. What Daniel didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Florence was the engine behind everything, every single thing. The contracts that landed in Daniel's lap, she had made those calls. She had charmed those clients, smoothed over the rough edges, and found the right words at the right moment, all before Daniel ever straightened his tie and walked into the room to shake hands and smile. The house they slept in, her money, her credit score, her signature on the lease. The business account that always had something sitting in it, even during the dry months when Daniel shrugged and said, God will provide, that was Florence, quietly moving, quietly solving, quietly keeping the ceiling from falling in. But she never said a word about any of it. She had grown up watching her father's ego slowly crushed by her mother into someone small and apologetic. She had promised herself she would be a better version of her. So she worked in the background like a shadow, present everywhere, visible nowhere. She let Daniel take the bows. She handed him the glory and watched him stand taller in it, and she told herself that was love. She loved him that much. And love, she was about to discover, does not always protect you from the person you give it to. The family meeting happened on a Tuesday. Florence remembered it clearly because she had spent that morning closing a logistics contract worth 4 million naira. She came through the door tired and satisfied, still carrying the smell of Lagos traffic and hard work on her skin. Mama Adeyemi was already in the living room, sitting upright, hands folded in her lap, 2 of Daniel's aunties arranged on either side of her like sentries. The kind of sitting that tells you before a single word is spoken that something has already been decided. Florence should have turned around and walked back out. She didn't. Sit down, my daughter, Mama Adeyemi said. Florence sat. Just like you know, your brother-in-law is gone. His name cannot die with him. Daniel will marry Bisi. The room tilted sideways. Florence blinked slowly. Sorry? Bisi, Emeka's wife. She needs a child to carry on the family name. Daniel will give her that child. A sound escaped Florence before she could stop it. A short, sharp laugh that startled even her, bouncing off the walls of her own living room. Mama, she shook her head. This is 2026. Tradition does not check the calendar. I am his wife, Florence's voice dropped. The laughter was completely gone. I am sorry, Mama. I am sitting right here, in this house, telling you I will not accept this. Mama Adeyemi looked at her, the way you look at a small, temporary inconvenience you have already planned around. You already have a child. Let Bisi have one too. Her eyes didn't move. In his brother's name. Florence stood up slowly. I will not accept that. Never. The old woman didn't argue, didn't raise her voice, didn't even blink. Then you will leave. This is my son's house.
Florence sat in the dark that night and waited. She didn't turn the lights on, didn't move to the kitchen, didn't do anything except sit in the chair facing the door and wait for the sound of Daniel's key. When it came, She watched him step inside, watched his hand reach for the light switch, and watched his face change when he found her already there, already still, already watching. "Your mother says you want to marry Bissy." Her voice was calm, controlled, and measured. "Tell me the truth. Is it true?" Daniel set his bag down, slowly. Then he sighed. That sigh, long and heavy, released like she was something weighing on him, like she was the problem he had come home to. "Calm down," he said. "It's just to keep my brother's legacy alive. It doesn't mean anything, Florence. You are my wife. You are the only woman I love." Florence looked at him. "You love me," she repeated, very quietly, "and you will sleep with your brother's wife, and it means nothing. Don't twist my words." "I'm not twisting anything. Those are your exact words, Daniel. You just said them." "This is tradition." He finally held her gaze. "My family, your family came into our home and told you to take another woman to bed." Her hands were folded in her lap, perfectly still. "Your family came into our home and told you to take another woman to bed. And you are standing in front of me, explaining it like I am the one who doesn't understand something." He opened his mouth, closed it. And in that silence, something shifted inside Florence. Something small but permanent. A door somewhere deep in her chest, clicking shut. Daniel went to his mother early the next morning. Florence didn't need to press her ear to any wall to know how it went. She had seen that conversation play out in 100 homes 100 times. The son who almost grew a spine, the mother who reached over and snapped it back. "Mama, I can't do this. I don't want issues in my home," Daniel told his mother. "Stop being childish," Mama Adeyemi scolded him. "You are a man. Behave like one. Men are polygamous by nature. Carry yourself that way. Don't let any woman intimidate you. Your wife cannot do anything. She loves you and won't do anything. She's just blabbing. Are you going to spend the rest of your life looking at only one son? This is an opportunity. Take it, my son." Bissy moved in the following week. She arrived soft, eyes low, voice gentle, bag clutched against her chest like a humble guest. "Thank you for allowing me to stay, Florence," she said that very first day. "Your kind is rare." Florence watched her, said nothing. Because she had seen this kind of soft before, the deliberate kind, the carefully calculated kind that knows exactly how many days to hold its shape before dropping the performance. She was right. 3 days was all it took. Bissy found Florence alone in the kitchen that afternoon, and the moment the room was empty of witnesses, her face rearranged itself entirely. Not ugly, but something worse than ugly. Certain. "You think you own him." Her voice was low and steady. "I was supposed to marry Daniel, not his brother. You are the mistake in this house. Now that fate has brought me the opportunity, Florence, you will leave for me." Florence set her cup down carefully on the counter. "It is only a matter of time," Bissy added, and smiled. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Bissy's face dissolved back into warmth so quickly, so completely, that for 1/2 second, Florence almost doubted her own ears. Almost. The afternoon, everything split open, started with a scream. Florence was in the bedroom folding laundry when it pierced through the house, sharp and desperate and designed to carry. She dropped everything and ran into the corridor. Bissy was on the floor, hand pressed to her head, face twisted in convincing, practiced agony. "Bissy pushed me." Daniel was already there. He had come running from downstairs. He stood over Bissy and then looked up at Florence, not with a question, with a verdict. "If you're already acting like this," he said, voice stripped of warmth, stripped of the man Florence thought she knew, "what will you do when things get harder?" Florence stood in the corridor of the home she had paid for, in front of the man she had quietly built, and understood for the first time that it didn't matter what she said. He had already decided what to believe. He had chosen his story and placed her in it as the villain, and nothing she said would move him. That night, he packed his pillow. BC is hurt. I need to stay close to her. He said it the way you mention an errand. Casual, flat. The way you'd say, I need to stop for fuel. Like it was obvious. Like she should understand. Florence sat on the edge of the bed they had shared for 7 years and stared at the opposite wall. She thought about the contract she had closed the morning all this started. She thought about the client she had spent 3 weeks warming up so that when Daniel finally walked in, the man was already ready to sign. She thought about the years of swallowed words, the deliberate invisibility, the love that had made itself small so Daniel could feel big. She had built this man, and he had just picked up his pillow and walked out to sleep beside someone else. It was her son who finally broke it all the way open. Tunde came into the bedroom 3 days later, holding out a phone with the pure, unguarded face of a child who doesn't understand what he's carrying. Auntie BC said I should show you, Mommy. Florence's hands moved before her mind caught up. She took the phone. The screen was a flood. Messages, photographs, a conversation thread that stretched back months. Before BC moved in, before the family meeting, before any of this had been dressed up in the language of tradition and legacy and a dead man's name. This had been going on long before any of that. Florence read every message, every word. She sat on the edge of the bed and read it all the way through to the end. She didn't cry. She went very quiet instead, the way a body of water goes quiet in the seconds before it hits a boil. When Daniel came home that evening, she was in the living room. No food on the table, no television, no Tunde running to the door. Just Florence, seated, hands folded, watching him walk in. "How long?" she asked as the door closed behind him. "Have you been lying to me, Daniel?" He froze in place. Then came the words, the frantic, tangled kind that men reach for when they are caught. It wasn't what it looked like. It was complicated. Things just happened. She was in a difficult situation. It didn't mean anything. You have to understand, Florence. You have to just... She raised one hand. He stopped. She looked at him for a long, steady moment. At the man she had chosen. At the man she had carried, while making sure he never felt carried. At the man she had loved enough to make herself invisible for. Then she nodded once, stood up, and she walked to their bedroom and closed the door. She waited until he left for work the next morning. Then she called a moving company. She packed only what mattered. Her things, Tunde's things, and the documents, all the documents. Every paper that bore her signature, which as it turned out was nearly everything of value they owned. The house, the company registration, the accounts, all of it had her name on it because she had built all of it, and she had never gotten around to giving that away too. She didn't write a note. Some departures don't require explanation. Some things have already said everything. The fall was not slow. It came fast, the way collapses do when the thing that was holding everything up suddenly walks out the door. By the end of the first week, Daniel discovered the accounts were frozen. He tried to reach the company funds and found the business, registered in Florence's name, built on Florence's foundation, sustained by Florence's relationships, completely inaccessible to him. The client stopped calling. They had always, if he was honest, been her clients. He had just been the face she sent into the room after she had already done all the work. Without her, they had no reason to pick up. The house began the process of reverting. By the second month, the walls were genuinely closing in. Mama Adeyemi came to sit with him and took the opportunity to tell him that Florence was the cause of everything. Selfish, ungrateful, too proud for her own good. Daniel sat and let her speak for a while. Then BC told him she was pregnant. He looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who had helped him light the match that burned his home down. This woman, his mother, had delivered to his door like a gift and had turned out to be nothing but a consequence. That child means nothing to me. His voice was hollow. Get rid of it. Tunde is my only child. He will always be my only child. BC's face collapsed.
But you said you loved me. We were always together even before Florence, and now that we finally have a chance. What happened between us was lost, Daniel said. It was carelessness, it was stupidity, and it destroyed the only real thing I had. I want my wife back. I want Florence. His mother shut up. Enough! I don't want to hear that woman's name in this house. See what you are doing to yourself. Man up, Daniel. You can marry as many women as you want. Don't let any woman put a cage around you. Mama, his voice was the quietest it had been in months. Leave my house right now before I do something I will regret. She looked at him as though she didn't recognize him. You have done enough damage, he said. You came here with your tradition and your advice, and you helped me burn down everything Florence built. I want you to leave now. She left. That night, he put something in BC's drink, not poison, just an end to a consequence he could not bear to keep. Whether it worked, he didn't stay to find out. By morning, he put her bags outside. She was gone before noon. And he was alone. In a house that no longer felt like his, running a company that no longer functioned, standing inside a life that had quietly, while he was busy making all the wrong choices, stopped existing. He searched the way men search when they finally understand what they had. He called everyone he could think of, old friends, mutual contacts, distant relatives who might have a number, an address, any thread. Nothing. Florence had not run in panic. She had simply stepped out of his reach with the same quiet precision she had used to build everything around him. She was good at walking without being seen. She had spent 7 years perfecting it. He started walking the city. He didn't have a plan. Some mornings he just left the empty house and moved through Lagos like the streets might give her back to him if he stayed on them long enough. On a Thursday, 3 months after she left, they did. He spotted her on the island standing outside a compound that stopped him mid-step. Wide gate, clean, quiet grounds, the kind of stillness that money builds around itself. Florence was in white, Tunde on her hip, his son's face buried in her neck and shaking with laughter at something only the two of them knew. And beside her stood a man, tall, relaxed, standing next to her like he had been standing next to her for years. Daniel's legs stopped walking. She turned before he called her name. Maybe she felt it. 7 years of knowing someone leaves something even when the love is gone. Florence. She looked at him, the way you look at a city you grew up in and moved away from. Recognition without longing, memory without desire. He crossed the street. He didn't know what his face was doing. I made a mistake. The words came out rougher than he planned. I know that. I was weak. I was stupid. I let them get into my head and I chose wrong and I know that. But I'm asking you, please, come back. I would never be that man again. The man by the gate didn't move. Tunde had gone still on Florence's hip, his big eyes moving between his parents, reading the room the way children do. Florence was quiet for a moment. Then she said gently, so gently it was almost worse than anger. I didn't leave because you made a mistake, Daniel. She let that sit. I left because you chose betrayal and called it tradition. You chose lies and called them love. When I looked at you in that house, I wasn't looking at a confused man. I was looking at a man who had already decided and was just waiting for me to accept it. She shifted Tunde against her. So I decided too. Florence, please. I can forgive many things. I have forgiven many things. Her voice stayed gentle, stayed steady. But not a man who looks his wife in the eye and protects a lie with everything he has. I cannot go back to that. I will not go back to that. She glanced briefly at the man by the gate. Badmus is a friend, nothing more. I am not looking for anyone. I am done spending my life arranging myself around other people's comfort. She looked at Daniel one final time. No bitterness, no anger. No trace of the woman who had once loved him so much she had made herself invisible to keep him whole. Just peace, the hard-won, unshakable kind. I choose myself now, she said, and I choose my son. She turned, took Tunde's hand, walked through the gate, and it closed behind her, quietly, finally. Daniel stood on that pavement with nothing. No wife, no son, no house, no company, no mother he felt he could call, no BC, no tradition that had kept a single promise it made. Just a man on a street, standing inside the full weight of every choice he had made. He had been so certain Florence would stay. She had always stayed. She had always absorbed and adjusted and forgiven and stayed. He had looked at her silence and read it as surrender. He had looked at her humility and mistaken it for helplessness. He had assumed, without ever examining the assumption, that a woman who loved quietly would take anything. He had never understood, not until now, standing on the pavement with nothing around him but the echo of what used to be his life, that the most powerful person in any room is rarely the loudest one. It is the one who built the room, the one who knows exactly where every wall is, every foundation stone, every door, and knows when the time finally comes exactly how to walk out and leave it all standing behind her. Some men don't lose everything at once. They lose it the moment they choose wrong. They just spend the rest of their lives arriving at the ruin. Thanks for listening and watching. Subscribe for more stories like this. Did you think Florence should go back to Daniel, at least to give him a second chance? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Have a great day.